thanks for coming on today. We appreciate it. If you could you do us a favor and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Well, my name is Itzel Marquez. I use she, her pronouns, and I am an assistant professor at Central Michigan University in the School of Engineering and Technology.
That's so neat. Now, how did you get to where you are? What was it that actually made you want to go in this direction?
I took a little bit of a long road, if you want to say that. When I graduated from, I always wanted to do engineering from when I was a child. My father always encouraged me a lot to do science, to do engineering. So that was in my mind from when I was very little. So I went and did my bachelor's in chemical engineering in Mexico. And then after that, I wanted to do industry. I wanted to work in the industry. All of my family are teachers. And I always said I didn't want to teach and I didn't want to be a teacher. And I want to be an engineer and work in the industry. So I did that. I worked a couple years in the industry. And then for some reason, I wasn't really finding my place there. So I went back. I felt a little bit lost for a couple of years, not sure what I wanted to do. And I contacted one of my mentors in my bachelor's degree. And he said, well, why don't you come back and do a master's degree? So I went back, did my master's degree, and that's when I started doing research in water treatment and water pollution. And that's also when I started teaching at a university level. And I found that those two things were my passion. Water research and teaching about water and teaching about engineering, those two things were my passion. So from then on, I decided I wanted to continue my career in academia. I went on to study my PhD. That's when I came to the US, to the University of Arizona. And I've been trying to do that to build my academic career since then.
That's fabulous. I love the journey where you actually combine your engineering, your water passion for research and everything else together. That's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. I love that. When I very first started out in my career, I worked for a company that was out of Iceland. And it was a company called Akva, AKVA, and they had Icelandic water. And they were coming to the United States, and we were kind of marketing them and getting their food product into the industry and into the merchandise and everything else that we were working on. So I love the whole, kind of clean water initiatives and all of the things that we've been going through. I mean, quite honestly, that was 30 something years ago. I'm a lot older. So it's just one of those things where it's come along, and good for you for having a passion for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely do have a passion for water.
Is it something where you've picked something to research because that's where you've been the most curious? Or do you feel like you would take on other projects outside of water or any of the other kind of sciences that are out there?
Well, it's interesting because with research, you get to go into many different areas and still do one topic. So right now, for example, we're working on a project where we are synthesizing polymers. We're making new materials, but those new materials will be used to remove contaminants from water. And I am also working on other projects, for example, where we do mathematical modeling of how water is flowing inside the different processes that we use to clean the water. So I get to do I get to explore many other areas, chemistry, physics, mathematics, many other areas, and still apply those into the water sector.
Yeah, I mean, just talking through when you were, kind of speaking about what you're doing, I think of the word STEM. When I think of, okay, she's got science that she's working on, obviously with the different projects and everything that's going on there, the technology with the different, polymers and everything else that you're working through to get all of that stuff together. You've got engineering because you're creating devices that can do what we need to do, and then you've got the mathematics because you're analyzing all the data and all the different parts of the project. So you've got the end to end, right? When you think about kind of STEM as a career, you're a great example of that, obviously, right? You start one end and you end the end. So that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. That is
And I
awesome.
think that's the definition of research in
Right,
general.
exactly,
Just
right,
combining a lot of things to
right,
try to solve a
right. It's
problem.
perfect. It's perfect. Yes, absolutely. So what do you enjoy most about what you're doing today?
Um, there are a few different things, and this is why I am feel really lucky and fortunate to be able to work where I work, because I do mainly I think of my work as three different areas. One is the research, where I get to do to combine all these different sciences and things to solve a problem. Then I also have my teaching part, which is where I work with the students in the classroom or in the research projects, and I get to help them learn new things and develop new skills. And I also have another area where I like to get involved with science communication and increasing diversity in STEM.
Mhm.
So I get to work with younger people, not college students, but younger people, or just the general public, and talk to them about water pollution, or talk to them about a career in STEM, or talk to them about anything that they find interesting, where I can contribute something.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then, communicating like that and actually fostering the passion, right, that you have, and creating that kind of spark in someone else is definitely something that I think happens within STEM. I think STEM ends up being one of those verticals where someone speaks to somebody, they see something, or they say, wow, I loved having that experience of doing that research, or going to something and analyzing the data and looking at the technology, or I really had a passion for kind of the ecosystems, right? If you wanted to say, okay, you know what, I wanted to learn more about it across the global impact. And I think that that's something that STEM, if you could spark that little curiosity in someone, I think it hooks. And you're a great example of that, that it hooks, and then they start thinking this could be something that I do. And I think it's important because naturally girls, women do not naturally gravitate towards that. So
Mhm.
you have to have that influence and that spark, or that creative kind of light that says this is where you want to go. So it's nice. So if you think about kind of your career path, were there changes in your career as you went along? I mean, it sounds like your journey, you kind of started out one way and you kind of came back another way, which is really a neat experience. What do you think about that, and how that kind of impacted your career?
I think first of all, I think it's valid. Many times, for some reason, we're led to believe that we have to follow a straight path towards our goal, and we have to have a clear goal from the beginning. I didn't have a clear goal for what I wanted to do with my professional life from the beginning. Like I said, I was lost for a couple of years and didn't really know where I wanted to end up. So I think it's okay and it's valid to step back a little bit and see a broader perspective, and see take into account everything that you consider valuable. Of course, salary and that is important, but you also want to have a job that you really enjoy, if you have the chance. I understand that that comes with a lot of privilege, and I try to be aware of that. But I was lucky enough to find a job that I'm passionate about. So that's one thing. The other thing, it gives you a broader perspective of how you can really contribute something into our society. And for us as engineers, we're trying to solve problems that the society has. And I tell this to my students all the time. In order for you to help to solve these problems, you need to understand that society, and you need to understand the people. And for that, you need a very broad background, not only in the technical part, but also in the social part, in the economic part, in the environmental part. So even if my path was not so straight and so direct as for others, I think it really enriched my perspective and why I do the things that I do.
It's a great, great answer. I will say that, you know, one, you brought up the fact of how humanities enters into STEM, and, you know, having that broader perspective, as well as knowing that, you know, this is, you know, you may go into an area and not everybody lives the same way as you do. You know, the problems are different in different areas than they are in, you know, in countries or in regions or whatever of the world where science is applied, you know what I mean? And that is, you know, a solution. But in order to get the solution, you have to go through the humanities to actually understand what the problem is, you know, and you need to look at it from all perspectives. I love that you talk about the fact that your journey wasn't a straight journey, because we love that, right? Because one of the things as women is we have a hard time forgiving ourselves for changing our minds. And, you know, we should be doing this, because this obviously gave you wonderful perspective on the world and enriched your career, instead of, you know, looking at it from a step back, which I've never looked at it as. It's always that look of introspective look of where am I, what am I doing, and where do I want to be? And it's okay to hit that reset button. It's very okay to hit that reset button. So if you had to think about the obstacles in your career, what do you think that you have overcome?
I think one of the biggest obstacles or challenges was the change in culture. I grew up in Mexico. I lived in Mexico for almost 30 years, and then suddenly change to a different country, a different language, a different culture. It was a huge learning process. I still learn things about the culture here. I still have to learn things. For example, the educational system is different in both countries. So when I started teaching here at the university and I meet, for example, freshman students that come right out of high school in here is different from high school in Mexico. And I had all my assumptions and all my prejudices about high school students that do not apply here. So my very first time teaching freshman students, I had to relearn everything I knew about high school. I had to understand how the system works, what type of activities and classes they are doing, they are taking, what type of mindset high schoolers have in here when they come into the university, which is different from when I was teaching in Mexico. So all of those differences and nuances and cultural differences have been a challenge, but have also, like I said, enriched my perspective of different people around the world.
It's nice to see that, you know, you would think of it as being a positive experience, you know, especially with teenagers. They're not always easy, you know. So it's nice that you think about it in the way that you do, and it's neat to hear your perspective on, you know, that they are different, you know, globally. You know, that teenagers in different regions of the world react differently. I don't think we always think about that. I think we think about, you know, adults and everything else, but thinking about it from their perspective, you know, it's I'm sure there's similarities, and I'm sure that there are, you know, complete differences. That's really that was interesting to hear. Thank you. So if you had to talk to your younger self, what would you say?
I think I would say, like, after everything that all of the places that I've been and all that. I think I would say when I was a kid, I tried to be very focused and have to have a plan for everything and have everything organized and set up, and this is what is going to happen and when and how. And that also led me to be a bit apprehensive and led me to have issues managing stress, managing change and unexpected things. So I think I would just go back and tell myself it's going to work out in the end, even if you don't have the perfect plan for everything all the time. So I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I have learned as I get older.
Yeah, that's definitely refreshing to hear. Definitely. So if you had to give advice to young girls, what would you say to them?
I was thinking about this question for a while, and it's not my advice, but it's an advice that I heard in one of the talks that I attended from Dr. Monahana Atisha, which is one of the greatest advocates for clean water that we have in the country and maybe in the world. And she's a great activist and she's a great scientist. And she said, and she talks to young children all the time. And she said to young children and young people that want to do something important and how, because they were asking how, I'm rambling a little bit here, but they were asking, how do you keep passionate about the things that you consider important despite having everything against you? And she said, just find your why, find why you are doing things, and then keep going and just keep doing it, and keep, whenever you have doubts or you're not sure if this is worth it or if it's going to actually make a change, just go back to that original why you are doing things, and that will generally help you keep going. That and having a support system, a group of people that will support you and will help you grow. So what I would say to young girls here is I think the most important thing is to find what they are passionate about, and then find a support system or a group of people that will help them just grow and become the best human that they can be.
That's wonderful advice. Absolutely wonderful advice. If you had to limit your LinkedIn to 3 words, what would it be?
It would be water warrior.
I love
something like women water warrior, something like that.
with 3 W's, women warrior water. Fine. That's awesome. That is great. Thank you so much for being with us. We really enjoyed hearing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.